here we go. It's a different ratio tonight, 6 o'clock. The Bhoycie Bus is reacting to the Celtic AGM. I am joined by the judge. Who else could judge an AGM quite like our resident, judge himself? I was trying to get another word for judge there, and I just couldn't do it, mate. So, I was trying my best. Regan might also become part of the jury if he jumps on board. He may be jumping on at some point. We always look forward to a bit of Regan. And you're stuck with me as well. Obviously, we'll do all that good stuff. We'll get stuck in. Hope everyone's had a good wee day at work. And probably been very much like the rest of us, sort of following Twitter updates, things like that. If you're at the AGM, get in touch in the live chat. We'd love that because we can get some more insight and, the sort of vibe of the room. I'd really appreciate that. But we'll do all that good stuff. That means, obviously, please do right now. There's 31 already jumped on the bus. It's a double-decker already within the first 30 seconds. Whilst you're jumping on the bus, as you buy your ticket, it's obviously a free ticket, but as you get your ticket, press the like button. Give us a wee share as well if you like, and as always, you can slag the hair. Also, if you want to go to piesports.com, you can use the code BUS1888, and it'll get you a tasty 12.5% discount at the checkout. On top of that, if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member now, from what I'm told, Mark, the $1.99 for the Bhoycie Bus member is actually a fee that's the average, and you actually look at the level that we're producing. You'll know what we're talking about if you don't know what that's about. We'll get to that. But yes, it's $1.99 a month. It just keeps the wheels on the road. I sent Phil some more money for all the shows that he's organised today. For example, do you know what I mean? So we're a team on the bus. It's not just subscriptions and all that. We want to try and reward people who dedicate a hell of a lot of time jumping on the bus. But, of course, it's totally optional. All the content's free, all that shite, as you know. If you're listening on the downloads, obviously we're still supported as well by the EPL Index. We've recently moved over from, it was Acast before, to Megaphone, but it shouldn't actually affect where you find the Bhoycie Bus. It should still be located at the same bit, and it will be on all the usual audio download platforms. So if you can only catch a wee bit of this tonight, then make sure you catch up with the rest on audio while you're walking the dog or whatever it is that you might be doing. I don't know, working out, what some folks seem to do, but still know me. Anyway, Judge Cairney, we had the Celtic AGM today. Brendan now back at the table. As I always point out, 2 Lawwells for the price of 1. That's what happens if you take your eyes off the ball. That's what happens. Don't go from banners to, absolute kissing their arse. Say that again.
It went from banners and throwing sharks to chucking roses at them, I mean. We had to endure Michael Nicholson posts for about 3 or 4 months under Ange, and we all knew it was just a matter of Celtic finding the man through their incompetence to fund Ange Postecoglou. We all know Eddie Howe was the man. We all know the reasons why he didn't come. I suspect finances and backroom staff building played a big part of that. In fact, we'll get into it, but what was sure is the only man that he asked for to come, Ange, was the one we went shorty just now. So quite interesting. Couple of takes for the days. And very interesting that the only ones he wanted to take to Spurs with him were already ones at Celtic Park. So we'll get into all that, I'm sure.
We absolutely will, Judge. First and foremost, how are you though? You all good?
I'm doing very well, mate. I must admit, I knew the EGM was coming. I seen the paper yesterday, and I was just watching for the updates like everybody else. I'm not an investor.
Alex. The comments are flying in, mate. They're all baiting for you, mate. Chris Kerr's got the best one. Mark hasn't spoken yet, and I already agree with him.
You can see my intentions right for the start. I mean, we'll pick it apart. I'm pretty sure we will, but one thing for sure, I don't think there's a club in world football that can announce £70 million profits with a treble as part of their AGM and still enrage the fan base. I think that's quite unique.
Well, exactly. They should definitely rule it out, and it is not though, by the way, just sitting there as a cash reserve. It's called a buffer. We felt we needed a buffer. Yeah, we'll get that. A 72 million buffer. If anyone believes any of this shit anymore, you're off your head. But do you know what? I blame, Mark, a lot of our own support for the absolute nonsense that they now talk that they think they can get away with. I'm going to take you back to when Peter Lawwell was appointed. I want to take you back to some of the chats that this bus had, and it was very frank on that appointment and the reasons why it was very naughty by Celtic what they were doing at the time. So we've been very consistent on this. On Twitter at the time, there was and that's the only sort of social media I use. I'm sure on Instagram and all that shit they were agreeing with it as well. But there was a lot of people trying to say he's came back as a non-executive chairman.
No.
Non-executive, no influence, no. I made the very, very simple point on the channel at the time, which I think if I remember correctly, nodded along kind of laughing at, and I says, see if he's the only person in the room with the name chairman in his title. Guess what he is? He's the fucking chairman.
Yeah.
And now you fast forward 12 months or 11 months, whatever it may be, and suddenly they just call him chairman. Peter Lawwell, chairman. And see that as just a very small microscopic example. That's not to make the bus sound like we're all smart asses, by the way. The reason I bring it up is because that's the first sign that this is propaganda that they produce. They tell you lies and they think you're stupid. So see if you remember that they tried to tell you Peter Lawwell, when he came back, was a non-executive chairman, yet by this AGM, he is addressed as chairman, is holding court again today, and is very much behind the driver's wheel. Everyone knows it. He's the first interview that Celtic do on their own YouTube channel, etc. after. It's a main one-to-one with him that sort of leads. 11 months ago, we were duped into thinking, or many were, I certainly fucking wasn't, duped into thinking this is a non-executive chairman. They did that deliberately to con you into believing this guy's influence wouldn't be what we all now know it is. If you remember that lie, start treating everything else they tell you with the same disdain, and I think you'll get closer to the truth of what they mean by certain things. I don't just want to kick off on that, Matt, because see the way they just flagrantly do it now? They just refer to him as chairman, and he holds court in the room. Does that not make you sick that when we look back at that appointment all that time ago, you're arguing with fellow fans? There's a divide in our fan base because some of them think you're just being a negative Norma. So, well, I know you struggle with that every day, mate, but you know what I mean? You know how you get it, though, and it's like, oh, we're playing well, though, we're winning trophies, and you're going, but listen to what I'm telling you, Peter Lawwell's back as chairman. No, he's non-exec chairman. They don't even hide it now. They just removed it from the title. There's no announcement about that. So that tells you he was always chairman. See, when you start off with a lie, expect more lies to come. That's how his reign as chairman began. And for me, now when I see it, is that not just anger you even more?
Aye, he's been front and centre. When we hired Ange Postecoglou, Brendan Rodgers, he was front and centre. He announced the manager, then looked pissed off that he got the job. Then he was on the pitch with the Celtic jersey and parading the manager. He was front and centre of all the statements that the club's made. Ironically, the only thing that he's so adamant about is Celtic stick to this model that served him so well. He's fluid with a lot of things. He's fluid about what he takes the blame for, what he doesn't take the blame for. But when it comes to saving money, he's very he's got this one dimension. I mean, one of the worst things about Lawwell's appointment was we all knew that Ange Postecoglou was bringing in players for a market that was cheap. So the club gave him a lot of carte blanche to do what they wanted, with certain restrictions, right? But we all knew this was a tightrope. One slip for Ange Postecoglou, or if he was to go, this all crumbles back down again, and the person making decisions is Peter Lawwell. Knew it's Marc and Peter Lawwell. We've got a transfer strategy. You go back to the minute Marc Lawwell took over, every player we brought in, bar 2 or 3, been absolutely dug shit, you know what I mean? They couldn't even make a second string that would get in the League Cup for Celtic, you know what I mean? You've got your Bernabes, you've got the Giakoumakis debacle, no replacing Giakoumakis for anybody in the first team. We've got a goalkeeper who's probably 2 years out of date. We've not got a left-back replacement. We've not got a centre-back replacement that didn't come for Aberdeen on loan last season. The players we've got have been deemed to be behind a player that was good enough for Ange Postecoglou last season. We've got David Turnbull elevated to second choice midfield when he was sitting third and fourth choice last year. We've just got so many deficiencies within that squad. It was a tightrope. The minute Ange Postecoglou left the club, we all knew that the decision making was going to fall down to Peter Lawwell's door. And you know what? That's not good for Celtic fans. You know what I mean? See, winning trophies, it disguises a lot of the shit that goes on behind the doors at Celtic. Now, after one, but as podcast in general, we've no fell for it. We called out how catastrophic Lawwell was coming back. We said that we were getting told to calm down and this, that, and the other, and we say this, keep an eye on the board, and they get criticised quite a lot. But see, it's interesting that only in the last month, the focus has drifted back to the board. So not because of on the park results, because of off the park stuff for the Green Brigade, but it should always be the intention of the Celtic fans to put pressure on the board. I mean, the three people, Mackay, Nicholson and Lawwell, that spoke today at the AGM, they all sang for the same hymn sheet. They want Celtic to progress, Celtic to move forward. We've got this plan, but none of it involves spending money, Bhoycie. It's all after field stuff. I mean, I seen pictures of a training ground, new weights in the training ground, and a new dressing room for the Celtic players. You try to tell me that adds up to £70 million, or this buffer, a training ground for the women. Who gives a fuck about the women's team? Let's be honest, nobody cares about that. You know what I mean? Like if Fran Alonso sitting up there on to discuss the women's team, that's just throwing curveballs at the Celtic fans that are sitting at AGM, putting somebody else up there to answer easy questions while they sit there. One of the ones that probably didn't get picked up on, you mentioned that a minute ago. Somebody was asking about somebody said that the board had a brass neck to accept a salary during a cost of living crisis, and Peter Orwell said that the wages in the boardroom are on par with in the UK average, and you get what you pay for. So how can you not get what you pay for when it comes to players? How come spending more money gives you better results off the park in terms of his own salary and director's salary?
I find that very interesting, Mark, because
I found that very telling, actually, because I said before, like the Scottish government or the SFA, I think it was dishing out £2.5 million loans to anybody in Scotland that wanted them, and it was over 20 years. It was tax-free, debt-free, interest-free, you name it. And Celtic said no, and the reason why they said no is because anybody that took this money couldn't receive a bonus in the boardroom until this loan was paid off in the full term, the 20 years. So then maybe that's why the board didn't want it. And I've for a long time said in this podcast, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why the Celtic said no to a £2.5 million buffer. If you want to use that word buffer, but and they're saying,
is there not another thing about that I mean, if they didn't use it, it then got sort of divvied out?
No, it was so
the clubs not get
it. They never took it, so I actually think Rangers.
They probably should give it to Rangers.
It's fine. Just shows you. I mean, they're both. Do you know something? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I was watching the interviews, and I'm like, there's no Celtic man in amongst that. They could probably just tell you the starting 11 at Lisbon, or because I probably had dinner with them 55 times, but not one of them could sit and tell you they woke up at 5 in the morning in the EVA derby match worrying about team selection, things like that. You know what I mean? Not one of them could. It just tells me they're just businessmen, mate. You know what I mean? They're not interested in Celtic. See, look at that Rangers board, mate. You can fault them all you want, but this is a board that's still managing to keep a club with no money neck and neck with Celtic, beating a European final last year. And do you know something? See if they had £70 million in the bank, we'd be so far behind them we couldn't even see them. If somebody gave them £70 million in the bank, their bank tomorrow, Bhoycie, they'd be so far in front of us. We'd put the title by December. They would destroy us. Celtic would just like they did under O'Neill, like they did under Strachan, did under Rodgers, with a chance to crush these bastards, and we're just sitting back and buying your Turnbulls, buying your Bernabes, buying your Kobayashis, bringing through absolute fucking dog meat like Mikey Johnston, and for your Champions League squad. That's what we've got gone just now, and it all goes back to the board. That AGM today was just, we all knew the reality of the Celtic situation. They've got money and they don't want to spend it. They've made excuses now twice in public about having this financial buffer, and they even mentioned Everton. I mean, what?
I was going to bring that up. Yep, go on.
Just quickly before you do, boys, even somebody who's a layman, I'm not a business expert at all, but I don't see any parallels between Everton's situation, £140 million in debt, and Celtic's. Celtic actually used that twice. They used it during the AGM, then at the after AGM interview with Jerry McCulloch. They mentioned Everton again, and it turns out Celtic were actually part of this group of clubs that go together and made these laws up, these banning laws up. And you go, I wonder why. And to me, it just stinks of the fact that your Celtic board don't want to spend money. I'll tell you something right now. I don't care what stick I get for this. I hope to God we don't qualify for that Champions League, because our manager and players don't deserve to get their arse kicked for 8 games. Me and you don't deserve to watch it. I tell you something, see your board, they don't deserve another £60 million in the bank. They just do not deserve that, Bhoycie. Go to Europa League, compete to a certain degree and then get kicked out eventually. That'll probably sit better in my stomach, knowing that we can just about manage a good result or two. But watching us getting thrashed, the board's sitting back probably just counting the cash. And one of the things that they said during the McCulloch interview was they said that the Champions League money, as of next season, new it's just solely a guaranteed cash. As of next season, it's performance related. So there must be like a base level.
That's them almost warning you, don't think this is going to be very good. Much of a jump.
And well, it's also, if you're a businessman like they tell us there, surely you need to speculate and accumulate. You know what I mean? I think a 5% or 10% better player gets you a result against Lazio, gets you a draw final.
Totally agree, mate.
And Lowell
3 Louis Palmers instead of 1 Louis Palmer and 6 others. That's the reality.
They're in denial. Peter Lowell was asked about it, and he turned around and says, it's just about consistency. I think you'll find that our consistent level in the Champions League was more towards a 6-0 than it was towards a 2 each against. That's the consistency, mate.
Valid point.
I'm a bit like you, mate. I'm spitting feathers, but you know something.
There's a lot to take away from it, pal. There's a lot to take away from it.
But do you know what it's gone to? I was listening to a couple of podcasts. I told you about this yesterday. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I can almost see fans just asking for Europa League football. They don't want it in the Champions League football anymore. They don't want Celtic to. And the clubs go as where they want us. They go as where they want us. We're not going to demand. And do you know something? You look at COVID, Bhoycie, flinging sharks, attacking team buses, all the rest of it. What we found out was there's nothing our fan base can do. Nothing we can do to get rid of that board. I mean, Dermot Desmond's son, he said this morning that him or his dad will never ever sell this club. And then he had the cheek to turn around 2 seconds later and say he's just a custodian. If you're a custodian, you just pass through like a ship. You know what I mean? Hold the fort. Don't tell us you're a custodian. And do you know who always said that phrase? That's Keith Robert Kelly. That's the Kellys that said that.
Which used to get parodied on Only an Excuse.
Aye.
The custodians. I remember it well.
And do you know what?
You've covered a lot, Mark. You've covered a lot. So I'm going to try and remember as much as I possibly can from it. There was a couple of things, though, when it comes to the Everton comparison. That really got me today when I read that, because I just thought to myself, well, this is very interesting, because what's happened with Everton is very, very, very recent. Okay? That was only last week, a 10-point deduction. I'm sure there'll be appeals going on right now and all that, and they'll be trying their best to fight it. How that takes up then relevance into Celtic's psyche of what their business model is bizarre. As an example, it doesn't even remotely compare to where Celtic's present situation is. There's completely, as they then use the argument, European football and the landscape of football has completely changed, yet then compare us with a club who have always been in England's top flight. That makes no sense, to compare us to what has been a club from the English Premier League with all the riches that have came over this massive change, this sea change in the TV funds and the amount of revenue that they bring in from the cameras. What on earth would the comparison be? They were also spending money they didn't have. We're not spending money we do have. This is the fundamental thing. We also will find out that with comparisons like that, they're made for a reason. They're not made because, look what you could have had. It could have been that. No. That Everton example that they give is genuinely them going, yeah, fucking dance at AGM next week, and we've got that example. And that is unbelievable to think. They basically view you, mine, and of course everyone else, IQ to be that low they cannot read what it is they're trying to do. There's a basic term for this, and it's absolutely scaremongering. That's what they're doing. But Alistair Jack says Peter Lawwell doesn't miss a trick. It's true. He doesn't miss a trick. As soon as he heard that news, he was all over it. That's my line. That's the line for the AGM sorted. And people lap that up. I even had someone on my Twitter feed today going, "You're not aware of what happened in 2012?" I'm going, well, Rangers spent money they didn't have and went bust. We don't spend money we do have. We don't spend what we do have, and or because I'm advocating for the spending more than what we currently do of money we have. You then get a question from Jerry McCulloch that you were referring to the interview, Mark. It was very interesting. The first question, he says, people will say, Peter, why don't you spend all of that money? All of the money. What would you say to that? And it's like, who the fuck is saying that? Like, see that is a teed up question, because the real question is, why aren't you investing far more of that money in the playing staff and in the playing budget and in the wages, the wage structure that we all know? They then try and compare it. If you watch obviously I know you watched the interview with great intent and sadly advised me to watch it before I started this pod, so thanks for that, Matt. And they instantly tie it in. Once Peter Lawwell talks about, obviously, where the money's going, blah, blah, they go straight into the ECA agreement. And they start talking about how on the 1st of July, UEFA introduced wage caps and things like this. And it's all so cleverly tied in. Spend all your money. People would want you to spend all of it. No, nobody. I don't know any rational Celtic fan that wants you to spend all of the money in that kitty. But I'll not also have 72.3 million, Jerry McCulloch's figure used today, 72.3 million allowed to be told by a fucking non-executive, executive, whatever you want to call him, chairman, that's a buffer. A buffer. That's an insult to my intelligence, let alone, I'm sure everyone else's, but I can only see it from my own lens. When I'm watching that, I'm going, how stupid does he think I'm watching this? That I can't read between the lines of the piss you're talking right now. But then again, this is a guy people didn't even know was chairman until maybe today. You can't be helped. And that message, when he says things like this is a buffer, is aimed at you. It's aimed at all you who believed he was in as non-exec. Now, when he talks then about the investment in the other areas, I mean, these are absolute bare minimum investments in other areas of the whole club as the club as a whole, that I don't actually think have any bearing on whether we could have went more out than what we did in the transfer window or not. And that's where the deflection comes in. The real thing that fucks me off is you then get Rodgers on that panel, right? Who I've advocated for to be that manager. And the reason I wanted him, and a lot of it was, he's the naughty boy in the room. He's the one who's going to fucking upset the apple cart here if his previous reign was anything to go by. Brendan Rodgers comes out today and says exactly what he should have done in the summer. Trim the squad and bring in one or a few bits of quality, but get the squad thinner. That's all we had to do this summer. Why now would I have any faith you would do that in January, next summer or not? And by the way, he did have the time. He was in there as early as you could ever appoint a manager ahead of a new season. Very rarely it's as early as that they get to work. Let's get to work was his mantra. Yet somehow 7 new players come in. Was it 7 we signed? 7, I'm sure.
No, I think it's about 8 or 9, Bhoycie. And
was it 8 or 9?
The other man had an impact is by mistake. I think Palmer was by mistake. I'm convinced that Palmer was supposed to be a longer term right winger for Celtic, but I think it was Abada was number 1 until he was displaced. And Peter Lawwell was asked questions the same way we've seen during COVID when Dermot Desmond did an interview with himself. Remember that? Yeah, that was questions put to Peter Lawwell, written by Peter Lawwell. Peter Lawwell outlined Celtic's transfer strategy. Why was that not put forward by Mackay and Nicholson? Sure, that was the time to ask the questions. Why was Peter Lawwell telling Jerry McCulloch what our business model was? Surely that's up to the CEO. You know what I mean? Surely that is. You know what I mean? I thought the chairman was supposed to just sit there and deliver messages to the board. I don't think he's the one that's supposed to be the one who makes decisions.
When he was CEO, was he not giving the same messages?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think. I mean, Nicholson. Don't get me wrong. Paying me £3 million a year, and I'll sit there, I'll turn up and just say what I'm supposed to say. But I mean, I hate saying this because it sounds like I want bad things to happen, but we're not going to see it until these folk die, Bhoycie. Until these folk die, you're not going to see a difference. And we've got Mark Lawwell, who seemingly was appointed by Ange. We'll get to that later on. He's done fuck all. He's done fuck all for the club. He needs to go, but he'll be there till death do us part. And even that
Desmond today said as well that, you know, as long as he's alive, you know, they'll never ever sell Celtic.
Never. And do something that'll go to his son. We've traded the dynasties of the Whites and the Kellys, and we've turned into the Lawwells and the Desmonds. And I think the Whites and the Kellys, for all their horrible, stupid business sense, they have Celtic at heart. I don't think any one of them would have put Celtic in trouble on purpose. I think they just weren't very good business people. Well, don't get me wrong. I think Michael Kelly was an economist, but he just didn't have any business acumen, and neither did Terry Cassidy, neither did anyone. None of them could build the club the way it should have been built. And do you know something? There's parallels, because that board didn't suck in the strength of the fan base because they didn't like the fan base. They didn't trust the fan base. They didn't want fan engagement. And this board's going through the exact same mistakes. But this board is, one of the questions that was asked at the AGM today, and Lawwell grew a pair of balls and somebody said, I think we should just ban the Green Brigade for life. And then there was heckling within the crowd, and Lawwell found a pair of balls and said, anybody that doesn't agree with this person, let them have their say. If no, they can just leave. It's funny how folk can have their say as long as he agrees with it. Because when folk have their say in the stadium, when it's not his position on things, he's got to ban them. Now, I'm not going to lie, Bhoycie. I think the Green Brigade forced the issue. I think it plays into the Green Brigade's hands at the band a wee bit, and I think it plays into the board's hands that the Green Brigade acted in certain ways. I'm not sticking up for the Green Brigade here, but you can't have it both ways. Peter Lawwell, you can't sit there and tell the fan base to respect other folks' opinions when it comes to something that he agrees with, but then chuck fans out the stadium I know the Palestine stuff was only a smoke screen. I think the main mistake was breaking into stadiums and that, but there's no doubt in my mind that Peter Lawwell, we didn't go. Every week there'd be fan pressers, 3, 4, 5 different podcasts. Every match, pre-match, sometimes post-match, you should see certain podcasts there. That's what gone since Lawwell took over in January. It's all finished. And that's no coincidence. I don't think Lawwell likes the fan base. I think Lawwell sees the fan base as a nuisance. I think the full board see the fan base as a nuisance. One of the things, I think it was Nicholson that mentioned that he said they wanted to expand the club globally, engage with the European and Asian and markets. And I thought, well, why don't you engage with your season ticket base first? Engage with your customer base, because you're more likely to go buy a ticket for a Celtic game than somebody in Asia, Bhoycie. You know what I mean? So where's the engagement with us? And I feel like they don't want any opinions for Celtic fans. I've emailed the club countless times, and very often you don't get a reply unless you email John Paul Taylor. You don't get a reply, and that's another reason. It just shows you. St Johnstone's got about 3 or 4 SLOs. Celtic have got 2, and they've only just appointed a second one. We are a fan base of 54,000 season ticket holders, and probably a Scottish watching fan base of probably 3/4 of a million, maybe a million folk. Football fans, a huge chunk of Scottish football fans support Celtic, and you got one person dealing with complaints, questions, and all the rest of it. You know, and it just smacks of this club. They're not learning lessons for history, Bhoycie. With a board so disengaged and so disinterested in the fans in the early 90s. Fast forward 30 years, and you've got the exact same situation, except the team's winning games and we're doing well after the park, but the fans are getting left behind. The fan experience. Somebody asked about see the main stand. That's a premium ticket. It's £100 more than my ticket. And somebody asked, look, what's for about the 10th AGM in a row here? What's happening with the main stand? Are we going to upgrade facilities? And they were told, total non-starter, totally non-cost effective. But you've got a chairman and a group of directors, probably circa 8, 9, 10 million pound a season on bonuses alone. You know what I mean? And amongst them, you tell me they can't spend 15, 20 million pound upgrading a main stand that was built in the 70s. Everybody goes to Celtic Park main stand. There's 2 holes in the wall for your food kiosks. The toilets are terrible. It's like something for the 70s. Well, like a paint on it. I go to Jock's Teen stand, and my stand's modern, but it's not been touched in decades either, Bhoycie, you know what I mean? It's still the same shit you had fucking 20 odd year ago, and I don't know, mate. I just, unless you're in corporate, I just, you're something. We've got an EPL board of directors in Scottish football where they see us nothing more as a franchise. They're there to do a job, tick boxes, balance the books.
I
What happens in the
disagree.
park,
I
what happens in the
disagree.
park is totally irrelevant. I don't mean the EPL
In an
standard.
EPL board, mate, they would be the equivalent of Mike Ashley at Newcastle.
Aye, but
That's
in
the
terms of
that is the reality, mate.
Mike Ashley's totally uninterested in
With the purpose just being keep
fans.
Newcastle in the league, so you keep getting the Premier League money. That's all you do. That's all Celtic would do.
I bet our board is the exact same in a way where they're disinterested. See, if we all hate the board and we all think they're doing a bad job, and we all know they're not investing in the club, they're making decisions that make the fan base unhappy. That is Celtic. I mean, don't forget, on the eve Celtic got to their first League Cup final under Ange. After COVID, after all that shit, the relief was palpable. Celtic fans going to win their first trophy. And they waited till 2 years before kick-off, before announcing that they wanted to bring in Bernard Higgins as the security officer at Celtic Park. That they left that gone for summertime, right up until November, December. And there was protests, there was banners, there was sanctions put on the club by the fan base. Just shows you that was a fact. That was going to happen. The Celtic board, instead of going that straight away, that was a boo-boo. Tell our pals at the Sun that that's not going to happen. They left it thinking we'll get results and the fans will stop looking at us. And it didn't happen. But it's happened just now, Mark, because the team's getting results. We've got a Class A manager, and now things have turned on its heat because the Celtic fans, for the first time ever, with a successful team, successful manager, are now looking at the board, and the board don't know where to turn because this is new to them. They had the buffer of a good manager and a winning team for the last 2 decades. Now they've no. The board can't hide for this anymore. And the next move, I think, regarding the Green Brigade is got to be telling, and the next move regarding players' finances in January is got to be telling, because I think there's going to be a lot of unhappy folk in our fan base come the end of the season, whether we win trophies or not.
I will talk to you about Lawwell as an individual a wee bit as well, Mark. There was another interesting point. A fan, I don't know if this is accurate, again, we weren't there. We don't have the millions required to be these. Well, I'm not saying millions. I'm sure there was some people there that could,
look at a taxi.
Do you know what I mean? No, I'm not there anyway. I didn't have a season ticket. Do you know what I mean? I'm stuck in this bloody bus all the time. But there was a fan apparently that took a fairly personal aim at Peter Lawwell's reappointment. He was listing numerous European defeats, the appointment of Neil Lennon and the shivers at Hampden. He even was recalling giving us Willow Flood instead of Stephen Fletcher in 2009. Now, these are absolutely fair examples to be going, what you need to do when you make these big statements, right? And I'm sure I wasn't there, but I'm going to guess that the guy said along the lines, if he's going to go down that road, that he would say at the end of it, what warrants you to be the guy, right? With that sort of track record. But of course, he's obviously not rounded it off with a particular question at the end. He's maybe not quite, vocaled it properly, you know what I mean? Vocalized it properly. And in the end, Lawwell's turned around and said, what was your question? Rather than addressing anything that was actually brought up there. That's a record that he should have to at some point find scrutiny on. At the end of the day, you're someone who felt retirement, if we believe he's pish, let me get there. If we believe he's pish, that we would have to believe was because you thought my job is done, my work is done here, and I've maybe not got the hunger for it anymore. Whatever the reason may be, he felt retirement was the right option. If you believe any of that pish, to then turn around and not defend a record when he was CEO to warrant his position now as chairman, still doing all the things he did as CEO, as you've outlined by doing these interviews where he seems to be telling you what the strategy is more than what the current CEO is. I find that ridiculous that he can be that patronising and that almost like, you can't touch me, you can't challenge me. And see, when you do, I'm going to make you feel stupid because you've not actually rounded it off with a direct question. I'm going to focus on that bit. No. There are examples left, right, and centre, big boy, as to why we don't think you are fit to come back and elevated into this chairman role. Non-exec that you tried to tell us at the start, by the way. But now in this chairman role, with the record you had at CEO, what is it new that you're bringing to the table that's going to see a change at Celtic? That's what needed to be asked at the end. The guy's listed off examples. Clearly that's his angle. And you get that sort of disdain from a guy who's meant to be walking, talking and carrying this club as he's sort of the left, right and centre of it, Mark. He should be carrying a hell of a lot more dignity and class than that, and also fronting up to any sort of critique he gets and being able to answer back to it. It's just poor.
I think he's been sitting there and he's been like an arrogant fucking, somebody you get your work that just thinks they're too good to talk to, you know what I mean? So like a big boss. I think he was expecting tough questions a day, and I think his go-to answer was going to be always arrogant. He can sit there and rhyme off the things that Celtic have won under his watch, but I think Celtic have won majority of the trophies in spite of his meddling, not because he's meddling, you know what I mean? We all know that he's been in charge of player recruitment for a long time, and then it gets backed up with Nicholson, I think it was, or no, it was Rodgers talking about Virgil van Dijk, and you're going, well, Brendan, that's the exception to the rule. That isn't the rule. Virgil van Dijks are mentioned 10 years later because of how rare these players are. You do find gems, right? But seeing you put your horn into the trough that much, you're going to find some gems. You know what I mean? I don't know where we go with this, because the guy, I don't care how much booze he gets, how many banners he gets, that guy is just never ever going to leave us, Bhoycie. And if you remember, the reason why he left is because some gangster who was his neighbour got his car set on fire and they went to the rank house. And I think he let the newspapers blame the fans for that. And it was nothing to do with nightclubs and gangsters and whatever it was. He let the Celtic fans take the blame for that, like it was some sort of comeback for the COVID season. And they went, I'm leaving my role at Celtic because it's too much for me. And then they come back a few months later. The guy is, I don't think he needs social media. I don't think he needs a paper unless he's read the story. I don't think he's interested. He goes to Celtic Park. He sits there and watches the games. He's quite isolated from the actual reality. I don't think he goes to Waitrose and does his shopping and like that. I mean, I don't think he cares about the outside world. So the amount of booing, the amount of podcasts are going to touch this guy. He just shuts down all barriers. Podcasts were chinning Neil Lennon left, right and centre. They get banned. Podcasts were asking dodgy questions. Well, we're beginning to ask questions about player recruitment and all the rest of it. Started to dwindle down. He came in January, more or less stopped ever since. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then you get statements coming out for the board that looks like somebody's ripped it with a crane. You know what I mean? You don't really know. It's even the stuff for the Green Brigade. I'm sorry to get back to it. Like, I actually if I'm being serious with you, mate, I actually back club on this one. I think at the end of the day, you can't just break into stadiums, and just because of the way to Palestine flags and that was a tipping point, that doesn't mean you just discount all the other stuff they were doing, right? But I think with that, the way the board spoke about the fans in that statement, I just think that they were feeding a press and they're feeding the press and the mainstream media in this country who can't stand Celtic and can't wait to put a knife in their backs, and they were just feeding them, Bhoycie, you know what I mean? And I just think they were just fucking, they're just Tories all the way through them, you know what I mean? And you can see in them the arrogance, that questions that the guy asked them. And there was a question in there, I think that you said that there was a question in there, he just chose to pick out the last part of it and say, what was your question there? He should have answered the question.
He's demeaned them. He's completely demeaned them, Matt. He's made them look like a fanny. Let's just tell the truth.
And he said to the rest of the people at the AGM, if you don't want to give this lassie, this person their voice, you can leave. But yeah, he can ridicule fans. And you know something what really pissed me off? He said something funny about Rangers and everybody loved it. It goes back to the 1 year ago when the Rangers had
this is where we should all
another universe, another planet, another.
But
you know
this is where he wants you all before you go into the AGM. Sorry to cut you off, mate. But wants you before you come into the AGM, everyone's to put on their clown makeup. Put on your clown makeup. Make sure your wee cheeks are rosy. Get all the white stuff on. Get your wee lipstick on. Go in. Put your silly wee wig on, and all sit as a bunch of clowns because he goes, watch, this will get a laugh.
No, because
have you got that Rangers penalty lined up? Have you got that one, Michael? And he goes, I've got that one. Right, I've got my Rangers one as well. Watch. They're just back in my hand. It's pathetic.
They'll know the people who are got to do things that Celtic is like there was the voice to them. They get behind the curtain, right? But they just see this big Celtic badge and they're in awe. There's a Celtic manager sitting there and they're all nervous. Nobody's going to ask serious questions, boys. Even investors, because even the investor pool, they're no really get that much say in how the clubs run. And the resolutions, 1 to 10, whatever it was, every one of them was reappointing Lawwell, reappointing fucking Mackay, reappointing everybody, and then there was some comeback. There was seemingly, according to the papers, there was a few folk that didn't want Lawwell back in the club, which surprises me. But what surprises me even more is there was folk within that AGM who are Celtic fans, who are genuine Celtic fans, and anybody would vote that guy back in the club. I don't know how anybody could sit as a Celtic fan and want success at the club and think Peter Lawwell is going to be the best man for the job. Because I'll tell you one thing nobody's thought about, right? Peter Lawwell was Dermot Desmond's right-hand man, right? He's worth about £6-7 billion, right? Celtic's probably the smallest dot in his portfolio, right? £8 million investment. See if Peter Lawwell was that important to him, he'd be working for one of these big companies. That's the truth. That's the truth. The fact of the matter is, he knows how to save money. He knows the city, and he just gets on it. And the fact of the matter is, see if he was respected at all by Dermot Desmond, he would have. It's a high profile job because a lot of slack. And it's probably thankless. Peter Lawwell's happy to do that for big bucks. If he was decent, like we're told to believe that Dermot Desmond thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread, he'd be working in one of these big companies. Boys, say Celtic is probably £120 million turnover. He probably makes that a week in some of these companies. You know what I mean? We're probably the smallest company in his portfolio in terms of turnover and size. And that's the truth of the matter. You can't worth about £6 billion. You know what I mean? Celtic's worth about 150 million all told. You know what I mean? So we're not really big bucks that way. And you've got Lawwell, who is supposed to be his right-hand man, his number one go-to guy. The fact of the matter is, he's a dumpling that knows how to do what he's told with some things, but can rule an iron fist with dafties like Mackay and Nicholson. And he's happy to take the flak. He doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because, right, JK27, we've had enough of you, son. See, once you start calling my boy Mark any sort of names, mate, we're just going to ban you, son. See it. He's just been laughing the whole way through. He's not put in any actual counter argument to anything. He's just put laughter faces the whole way through. And he called the judge a spanner. I'm just not having it, Judge. A spanner. I'm at any other tool. It's just a spanner's just too far for me.
One of my family.
If he called you,
see anybody that calls you a spanner, you need to ban them. That's a stupid name.
Ah, it's terrible.
Call me a
spanner's useful, mate.
Call me a knob or a fucking.
So you're down for the shite patter alone. But one of the other things, again, when it comes down to, you touched on it earlier, is if they've got this elite mindset business-wise, and there's a reason for the buffer, and it's because we're ahead of the game, the ECA, and we're actually in check, with the wage caps. We're not fully on board with all this. Celtic have always paid their bills. We do everything this way. Brilliant. Okay, no problem. Then they fuck it all up again, don't they? They fuck up their whole mantra that they've got. He literally said to define the wages that they get. Remember, I was saying earlier at the top of the show about the memberships and all that bullshit, right? And I was saying, national average he says the £40 million profit we made is no coincidence, I think was the words he used. Or it's all based on, basically what he's saying is how big my dick is, right? It's because we are the boys in charge. That's what he's trying to tell you, right? He is the man. And it's because of our brilliant decision making.
What's the fan base and the players?
Let me get to it because you'll like this, Judge. So see if your decision making is so elite and it leads you to these brilliant, breathtaking profit margins and this incredibly financial secure position we're in. Here's the funny bit. See, once there was an appointment of a guy, funnily enough, with the same surname as Peter Lawwell. I think they're related. I don't know. Don't they push me on it because I can't join the dots. But if Mark Lawwell and Peter Lawwell may be related, I'm guessing so. But you know what they do? It wasn't us. We never appointed him. What are you on about, mate? It wasn't he? Hey, whoa. Oh, you weren't there. It wasn't us. You weren't. It was Ange. Ange appointed him. Said he worked with him at the AGM. He worked with him at the AGM. He talked to him at the City Group. He demanded Mark Lawwell. See if you honestly start thinking that's elite decision making. That's not how you land on 40 million profits, guys. So the whole argument is blown apart, and it makes me start thinking, could we have a hell of a lot more than 72 million fucking sitting in the bank right now? Had we actually qualified for the Champions League maybe year on year for the last 2 decades, which we are more than positioned to do, and had more than enough bites at the cherry to do, particularly when the other club was in the bottom leagues, or the new versions in the bottom leagues, whatever you want to call it. See, when you actually think about it, they absolutely contradict all their gloating when it comes to one wee bit of scrutiny that they knew. Fuck, they fucking got us here. They've got us. What do we actually say? What do we do to that? Blame the guy who's not here. Of course you're going to blame Ange. And suddenly it's Postecoglou out of nowhere, even though we've been told everything's worked to a structure, everything's worked to what Celtic do. It's been a strategy for year upon year. Suddenly it's, but we got the manager to be in for 2 minutes to appoint to appoint Mark Lawwell. It makes no sense. It doesn't stand up, Mark, with everything else they've done.
It shows you they know it's bad. It just shows you they know it's a bad call, because if they thought just now that Mark Lawwell was successful so far, they'd have said that was a great
I disagree. I think it's because they know you're joining the dots. You're basically what they're saying is the two Lawwells, and they can't accept it.
It's the same thing with Don Mackay. I mean, Don Mackay was put up there as the man who hired Ange, but now Lawwell's taking the success for that. He's saying, "Oh, these guys sitting up here, including myself, we'll get £40 million in the bank." Well, that was because of Ange, a fantastic manager, got to the Champions League, brought players that made profit, record turnovers. That's mostly all because of the on the park success, not because we hired an elite manager. We had a manager who was probably second, third, fourth down the ladder. We got lucky. We got a fucking class act there manager. He brought in some players that were cheap and turned them into stars. Brought in a guy for Benfica, sold for £25 million. £25 million was more than we spent in January there on one player. And then Lawwell's talk was we spent most of our profits in the transfer window in summer. Where did he get that for? We made £25 million, plus we get £9 million for Ange, or whatever it was for Ange, £5 million for Ange, plus we got £4 million for Starfield. Just straight away, that's before you forget your £1 million and your read.
Yeah, 35 million, which we didn't spend. So we made a net profit on ins and outs.
Oh, with 15 million.
Yeah.
And he's
so how could we have ate into that, man? And his exact words were, did he? Because what I read, what I read was something about the 72 million that was there, but we've ate into that already with the money. I'm like, we've not eaten into it. You made the net profit again.
You already talked, and then they mentioned tax. Do you see that? The guy mentioned £10.8 million in tax. He went, no, that's net profit. We want net's what you've got left, mate. Net's before tax, is after tax, fuck's sake. And they must think people are stupid. They don't get a pay slip and they can't read these things, you know what I mean? But the thing is, the fact of the matter is, the AGM today just shows you that they are stupid, because maybe not individually, but as a fan base, I know for a fact you could be sitting and be folk telling you Lawwell does a good job. It's like, even I mentioned that a few times, even though we got a £25 million deal in 2005 with Nike and a £30 million deal 15 years later with Adidas, and every month we've got a new kit range coming out. Every month there's a new training range. Every month there's a new range, right? And Adidas
some gazelles, Mark. I know you like them.
Gazelles. I mean, I think if you buy these shoes, you deserve to wear them. You deserve to be walking about the streets looking like that. I'm sorry. But
I think that's my next move after this jumper, mate. I think I'm going to complete the look.
No, you just couldn't, mate. I think maybe if I don't know, I bet you would smell like B&M chewing gum and cut about with like 1996 Hugo Boss jumpers if he wore these shoes. You know what I mean? I was just fed up with all the stuff Celtic are hitting us with, mate. You've got season tickets get up in sale at 3-4%, which was labelled a success by some fan base, some of the fan base, could be up further. No, we made profit. The Celtic fans deserve rewarding for their financial backing they gave the club, and we get hit with players like fucking Kwon, Yang. He's turned out good, but these are all players that are projects. And somebody asked Rogers today, is he any reassurances that he's not going to get hit with another Marian Shved? And he said none of the players have been pitched to me yet. So I think there will be players pitched to him that are just going to be utter guff. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I would rather Celtic fans eventually get as angry as what I'm with now and start making decisions that will hurt the club financially, because that buffer they talk about will be put to the test then. And if people at the top of the club want to see their bonuses and want to see the success they're getting financially, then they're going to have to make some changes within the club. But I just don't see it happening, mate, because, as I say, COVID has taught us all that we're powerless. The difference was in the mid-90s when we get rid of the Whites and the Kellys is we didn't have a season ticket fan base then. We found out if there was a break-even figure at Celtic Park, we found out that figure and we decided not to go to the games, and it fell below that. Month after month, the club became basically nearly insolvent. You know what I mean? And we've not got that issue. We've not got that power now, because we've got kit deals that are worth tens of millions. We've got Champions League football. We've got season tickets a year in advance. We have 15,000 waiting list.
A 23-year-old wage structure.
We had 23-year-old wage structure. you get what you pay for. I found that. See that you get what you pay for. I found that for me that was
a brilliant line. That's again one we could trip up on him.
It's the most telling part, because if you look at our squad,
you do get what you pay for.
You finishing bottom of a Champions League group stage with 1 point is exactly what you pay for, because there's not one. Matt O'Reilly, Kyogo, Hatate, maybe are players that I think, maybe Hatate, they three I think could play in the Champions League, right? The rest probably no, right? At a level, right? That they, apart from the players who were all cheap, by the way, they were all very cheap. Celtic bought a squad to finish bottom of the Champions League group. We've put a squad together that's supposed to finish bottom. You know what I mean? And even like say we've got that money sitting in the bank, and Palmer doesn't come back to Celtic Park until Friday night, and neither does Arthur Johnson. Although I don't think Johnson's going to be a big miss.
Yeah.
I think his form's a bit of a cliff.
Did you see him in the Christmas jumper, by the way?
I played
Did you see him in the Christmas jumper?
No,
in the advert, like with all wearing the Christmas jumper, he looked like he kind of looked like if I had a papa, he looked like my papa. He just randomly looked like he'd aged like 50 years. He's like smiling away, and I was like, how has he just turned into like a wee old man?
I think the worst thing about Arthur Johnson's form this season is it used to annoy me now when people call him AG.
Playing like my papa.
See, I plays like your papa. See, folk calling players AG and AR and GH. It's really grating on me, and it makes it even more annoying when they're playing shite. You know what I mean? I don't think. I think Palmer's going to be a big miss on Saturday, even against Motherwell. But we can afford Johnston. I don't think that's a big loss. I think if we're relying on defenders against Motherwell, then we're in big trouble.
We'll go on. Well, I'm sure there'll be talking points tomorrow in the TNF to talk about the players and stuff like that, Mark. Without being rude, because there was one last thing, and Brown Warrior has beat me to the punch, because I wanted your take on this, because I know you've got strong views, and we've kind of always along the way addressed them along the way. I think we have anyway over the last couple of years on the bus. Brown Warrior's kind of beat me to what the last talking point was going to be, pal. He said Lenny was hung out to dry as Lowell slipped out the exit. I agree with that, by the way, to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this bit. Mackay jangled the keys for the bloggers. Now, this is what happened. Sharks you were talking about before, now then they started throwing roses. It's a brilliant analogy you made at the top of the show. Now, the reason why it's so important is because what's happened is, and I think you called this, you said, actually, Bhoycie, the fan media access seems to have diluted recently. Is that right? You said there used to be, because it definitely was for a spell once a week, wasn't it? It was every week. It was they were at the pressers. You
En
seem to
masse.
think that's not quite the case. I'm sure the wee fella's still got a body in there because they'll ask questions about, how amazing it must be to hear your name being sung, Brendan. I mean, if you get asked that, I mean, after a 6-0 defeat, fuck, mate. Well, of course you're going to get in. So kudos to them. It's award-winning content after all. But what I will say is, when it comes down to it, is this fact about Celtic playing their audience, you can't deny it. This is not the bus trying to fall out with other podcasts. Not that I give two fucks, by the way. I mean, I've got a busy life as it is. I'm not really that bothered about what anyone thinks of me.
Aye, me neither.
But the reality is, let's just get one thing right. They got the doors opened and the red carpet rolled out to be silenced. It did work. They were silenced. Postecoglou factor, on another wee side note, Postecoglou's been a devil and an angel for Celtic. He's been unbelievable in footballing wise. You wouldn't swap that in the world. But what Postecoglou did by being such a brilliant talker and inspiring, I think, younger people, he was a bit of a Martin O'Neill, I think, for a lot of the younger generation, mate. And that's where I always go, just because you're older, Bhoycie, don't be a better older person. When I was 13, 14, anything O'Neill said, I lapped it up, right? And I still do now. So I suppose when I look at it like that, but what it meant was it deflected fucking all the attention off. Now, see when you go to the lengths that they did, remember it was day 3, day 4, and it was different days and with the banner outside the board. See when that can be turned around just like that by going, hello, and you come. Welcome to Celtic press conferences. That suddenly stops happening. Obviously, the Green Brigade fallout occurs. And now suddenly you're seeing, and I'm sure you're acutely aware, that all the people that seem to be lapping up everything Celtic PLC for the last sort of 18 months or so are now back on the fuck the board and all that. I don't remember them being quite so vociferous, Mark, about get that board out when they were getting their wee comfy seat when it was coming to press conferences and stuff. It's just a reality, by the way. I'm not trying to... In fact, I don't really care if it's offending anyone because I'm only speaking truths. There was a massive push to get rid of the guys in that Celtic board. Postecoglou got the job, and that should have been at the time derided purely because we didn't get our main target, not because of Postecoglou, but because it was a 4-month pursuit of Howe. But what they did at the same time was appoint Don Mackay. They did Don Mackay and Ange, first presser, and they did a fan media one. And that was it. That was enough to silence podcasters or bloggers, as Brown Warrior calls it. Not all, but a hell of a lot. And by doing that, that allowed this 18-month phase where you get 2 laurels for the price of 1. A non-executive chairman becomes a chairman. All these wee moves are done well. Come in at Celtic every week. Hey, content. And I hope these people now flipping it the other way around and go, fucking stupid board. I'm going, well, you reap what you sow. They played you like a fiddle and we warned you. Not that you would be listening to the bus, and I get that. That's fair enough. But we did warn on this show. This is a masterstroke by Celtic, what they're doing. And now that access looks to be getting more and more limited and less. Funnily enough, it's easier, and I'm not saying they wouldn't have anyway with the dispute with the Green Brigade, that's fair enough. But I also think it's a hell of a lot easier when they're not as compromised as what they were with this regular weekly access to player interviews and manager interviews, or even just regurgitating the same the media conference that Celtic sent to all of them via email, and it was basically fastest finger first to upload it to your channel and get 10,000 views. See all that? That compromised your position that you really stood by when you had the Sharks. Well, not the per se had the Sharks, but you know what I mean? Now, it seems to have flipped again, and it's like, where's the consistency in all this? You were literally
used. And they were used last week.
Used and abused, and then the piss took out them by a board that you all now want to call dinosaurs. Now, the dinosaurs reminded you how long they've been on the planet for, or were on the planet for, by absolutely taking the piss out of you for 18 months. And that allowed them to build up a stronger, if you want to call it, empire, but platform foundation by getting Now, legacy members now having the future generations involved. We've got Dermot Desmond's son saying they'll never sell the club whilst he's still alive, and they wouldn't while my dad was alive anyway. We've got Mark Lawwell on the board. This now all happening, whereas before you wanted these people out. You wanted them out, and you changed your mind when Celtic opened the gates to you. Now the gates are kind of maybe shut again, and obviously other things have pissed you off. Suddenly it's okay and it's hip again on social media to be calling out the board. It's not always been this over the last 2 years, though, Mr. Cairney.
No, I mean they were used last week and all when they phoned up on the podcast to tell them that the Green Brigade were banned for A, B, C, D, and E. This was only 2 weeks ago, sorry. So that they know that the fan media has got a certain ability to put a narrative out there. You know what I mean? That there's a bit of power involved with the podcast where they can help mould opinions of the fan base. You know what I mean? The bigger ones certainly can, and that's exactly why they phoned up when Eddie Howe collapsed. They phoned up on the podcast and says, "Look, Howe's collapsed. This is the reason. You read anything in the papers, it's not the truth." Then they phoned 2 weeks ago and said, "Look, the Green Brigade's banned. It's going to come out shortly. It's nothing to do with Palestine. It's this, that, and the other." So the podcast that will come out and regurgitate it do that, or at least put their side across that way, and they're not getting the access they were getting before. Don't get me wrong, 10 points to the club because they went and get the podcast a tea and a biscuit, and then they flashed their fanny at them. They just sat there and says, gimme. Let me ask Arthur Johnson, what his favourite restaurant in Glasgow is, and let me ask Ange Postecoglou what happened to his cough, all that stuff. And it's just, I couldn't watch it. I told you before, I'm so glad we didn't get any access to that because I couldn't sit there and.
But for the record, we did send a question.
Yeah,
just so people I requested to the SLO. I got the email, and I sent it not the summer been, but the summer before, and I requested on behalf of Regan, who was studying media and journalism at the time. I thought it'd been fantastic for his career, if you like, to be getting to go there. He would have had ready-made access because he lives so close by. He had the availability to go, and we never got a reply. Just to keep that on.
It's a closed shop. Then somebody else who will no name told us that sent us a wee screenshot of an email member saying the club's going to keep it as is, but they will look in the future. That's just telling you it's a closed shop. They want the ones who they gave. I mean, they were giving ones access to the women's games, VIP access with drink and food, including no rest at Celtic Park, to showcase how good the club are. I mean, they're even given. I mean, that's Sam's Footy Adventures. If there's a bigger hun on telly or YouTube, then there's none bigger than Sam's Footy Adventures. Right. Celtic are giving that guy access to. Celtic are giving him. Oh, he's for fuck's sake. Celtic are giving him access to the stadium, Bhoycie. They're giving him VIP tickets. They're giving him tickets for derby matches. He's in at cup finals. And us who got season tickets don't donate every minute we can to Celtic as much as possible, or get nothing for the club. And you've got guys like that who are sitting at the Bulstroof graveside when Rangers are playing, saying, "Oh, I hope we win the night for Bulstroof." That's what he's saying on his pods, on his YouTube videos. Every video he's Rangers daft.
I have no idea who this guy is. I've honestly never heard of him.
He's pretty big actually, boys. He gets about 10 times your views every show, but he's very Rangers. He is like I'm talking about. He's a Liverpool fan who started doing pods during COVID. He was offered Gerrard, so you can imagine his love for Rangers grew. He's Finland, but he's like heavy. He's a heavy Rangers fan, right? And he's getting all the access to the club. He's getting to go to Hampden, sold out matches at Celtic Park. He's sitting in the director's box next to the player, next to the substitutes for the other team. He's sitting next to Pat Bonner, you name it, and we're getting nothing. Do something. I got my ticket for the game. I don't need the access. This club are trying to pander it to their wee pals in social media. I'm not interested in it. Honestly, I go to the match to watch Celtic. I don't want any tea and biscuits and thank you, Mr. Lawwell stuff. It's not for me. Anybody that knows me, even on Twitter, or could tell you that's not my personality at all. You know, I mean, I could sit there and keep my mouth closed no matter who the person I was talking to is. And when you watch some of the pressers, and then you can see slowly for the anger for Ange getting, then within 2, 3, 4, 5 months, it was like whipboard. You know what I mean? Everything's gone great here. Photographs, Michael Nicholson.
You know the
Name
debates we had with people on, remember, online. I mean, it was
It's off the
horrible at
shop.
times. Like the amount of abuse we were getting. Like, and I mean, listen, everyone's okay. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was crying myself to sleep, but it was utter fucking mental. The amount of people quote tweeting you with just utter abuse about
I mean, you in particular. Me and you go to
it was
mad.
terrible, and it was all about your appearance, blah blah blah. Hence why I always say the slag my hair thing. And yet, all of them now, to a man, are now singing along the same tune as I am. It's so funny. It's so
It's amazing.
funny when you look at that.
It's funny how it only takes the Green Brigade stuff for folk to realise that the board are absolute fucking mongrels. Anybody that's watching Celtic every summer and every January will tell you this board are not geared to give Celtic success. They're just geared to make financial success for the club, and they don't see it as one hand washing the other. They just see it as let's squeeze every bit of juice we can out of the fan base. And I'm fed up with it. You know, I mean, the abuse you got for saying keep your eye on the board is now turned into a catchphrase, which is true. The abuse that I got for saying guys like Bernabei weren't good enough. I mean, I remember one time I had 90,000 profile searches on my name one time before I went private.
That's just because you're gorgeous, mate.
Aye. So no, so one of the tweets I did, it was like, I made about 10,000 fucking retweets on it, something stupid like that. It was really bad one time, one night. I think Celtic lost against Rangers, and it was honestly, I swear to God, I've never seen it like in my life. I had it was in the high thousands, the amount of replies and tweets on it, and I had 90,000 profile checks, the amount of people that click on your page. And I went like that private straight away. That was the worst.
That's right. I remember that.
And I went, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going private. And just for saying things that could be deemed as probably fact now. But you say the boards.
It's in vogue now. It's now in vogue because that access seems to have diluted. What folk want to call us being on the outside looking in, and just maybe that's why we've got the benefit of having such a balanced view, because we have been on the outside looking in, you know. Maybe eventually that kind of comes around and becomes a beneficial thing that I can go, you're being played. You've just completely full circled on wanting a board out to think everything's swimming within the space of 6 months. And now, funnily enough, it's all changed again.
It's gone too far now. I don't think it's come back now.
No,
I don't think if we win the Scottish Cup and the league and maybe we'll get a victory or two in Europe, I don't think it's going to go back. I think the turning point for me I think the biggest fan group we've got in terms of voice, I think, is the Green Brigade. Now, rightly or wrongly,
I was going to get to that. That was the last talking point, Mark. The Green Brigade.
I don't think the board have got.
I think they're both actually bad for each other. Yeah. I think they've both of them play into each other's hands. Both of them make mistake after mistake that makes one look. You could go, well, I can see from their point of view, like you pointed out earlier, and then that hand will give an example where you go, well, look at it. They are an absolutely toxic combination that eventually there has to be an outcome that benefits one or the other, or a compromise. I don't know how they do that compromise, but right now, that is a perfect storm, in my opinion, how both of them go about treating the other. One pushes back, the other doesn't back down, doubles down, funnily enough. But it's actually like that on both sides, Mark. I'm not just saying it. It's incredible. And I think right now that's a backdrop as well in the midst of all this. No one wants to be happening. No one can be doing what's happening, but it's undeniably going to eventually trickle into the next negative result. See, next negative result, this stuff all comes to the fore, whether it played a part or whether it didn't, by the way, right? Let's get that right. It will be factored into why said result occurred. I think that's fair. And I think when you look at that, you go, that's something that, to me, the guys that I've just told you, they're justified to be on British level of their, British standing examples of the money that they're on, millions and millions of pounds a year. I think we have to be right. I think we have to be clear here. If you're on that, how the fuck do you find yourself in a ding dong with an ultras group that you're actually not winning? And that's the reality here. Celtic aren't winning that battle, Mark. That is, to me, split 50-50, if not a wee bit in the Green Brigade side at this moment in time. My take on it, as I've always said, is I see things from both people's point of view, and I think the truth tends to lie in the middle. I've not got strong takes on either way. I've also not got as much of a right because I'm not a season ticket holder. I'm not a frequenter at Celtic Park all the time. So I think that allows me to be more balanced on it. But from the outside looking in, it strikes me that Celtic aren't playing a masterclass on this one. As much as they want to tell you, again, I'll go back to elite decisions, left, right and centre. Well, how we got to here's no coincidence. How we got to 40 million profits, no coincidence, blah, blah, blah. How you got to a place where you're having to ban your own ultras group for reasons apparently you can list over the last 2 years, and they're now banned from the stadium, and you're at a standoff with them. Is that elite decision-making? I think that makes them look weak. It makes them look like fannies, if I'm completely honest on that. Does that mean I defend everything the ultras do? Absolutely not.
No, it's quite reactionary. For a board to say they're well measured, it was quite reactionary. I think they should have dealt with this stage by stage. But to be honest with you, it's always means business. Couch is my relaxing stage. But it's like Kramer versus Kramer. Remember that film? It's that Bad Divorce. And I don't think anybody's going to be satisfied till the other one's burning. You know what I mean? And I think the compromise is, I think the club is using the footballing laws, etc. So they're not going to budge. Their stance is respect our rules, right? So the board can't budge because that'll be seen like they're backing down. So the only area that can budge is the Green Brigade to start playing ball, start playing by the rules. I think they are too far down the line for that to happen, Bhoycie. And where they go next, I don't know. I kind of get the impression that I think the Green Brigade, for what they were, I think that's finished in terms of the access they were getting, banners up, not having to get things searched properly and getting in en masse and getting in early and selling merchandise free willy. That's a film, willy-nilly, I might say. I think all that's really going to be, I know what a dick. That's an hour and a half fucking a half an hour try to drink a bottle of water, but I still want it, Bhoycie. So the fact I said free willy is fucking nuts.
I did watch it. I didn't know. I didn't know whether you'd done that or not. And I thought,
no,
I'm enjoying his battle too much. That I didn't. I went, he's a bit serious. And when he's on a roll, I went, I don't want to be insulting him, but did he just try and drink that?
You know what I did a few weeks ago? I lifted the candle rather than vodka. See my vodka? I'm drinking vodka and I lifted the candle up by mistake. I was like, your eyes are terrible, Bhoycie. What kind of a drink it, man? We call me Mr. Miyagi. Wax on. No, where are we going with that? I don't think. I think the boards. So the Green Brigade are very much. They can't back down. They're the non-compliant. The big boy in school. They can't back down, right? But Celtic are the headmaster who can't be seen to back down. So I don't know how this can be resolved. I really don't. And see if this is the only ammo we've got as a fan base to put some change in the board, I'll accept it.
You're just stealing my lines, because this is what I wanted then to put to you, because I think you've made very concise, articulate, reasoned arguments as to why you've went, I take the board's kind of side, but we're debating it over the past few weeks, we have been. And I thought, fuck, he's got, like, you can't deny where Mark's coming from on that. And I've tried to sort of I was kind of more on the fence with it all. But then you look at the Green Brigade stance with it all, right now where we're at, and then you look at that AGM today, and again, like I say, this is why I don't feel they're winning this war. I think you look at AGM today and you go, anyone who was on the fence now goes, fuck them.
Aye.
If that is what not the treatment, but the dialogue, let's say there has been dialogue between the Green Brigade and the board. Let's say it's in that sort of tone. Let's say that's how the conversations have went.
In private?
Is that anything in private? Do you know what I mean? Does that then lead to when they've went, well, fuck you, We're going to do this. And then suddenly, they're gonna be today, I would imagine, the North Curve, Green Brigade, delete where appropriate, will be sitting there licking their lips at that performance at AGM today and looking at what the general reaction of fans is. And I think if it's 50-50, let's say, between up to before today, between the Green Brigade and the board, see if we look at it beyond that, but now after today, and based on the events at the AGM, I think that would have been an 80-20 against the board today, just what happened at the meeting. So then you factor in that 80-20 into the 50-50 split that you had between GB and the board, and a lot of those on the fence are now going to lean with the Green Brigade. So this is where, and then you come up with the brilliant argument that you go, if that's what it takes to get the change, would you just go, do you know what? I don't agree with everything you say. I'm not going to have a boy in Sergio Tacchini tell me who to vote for. However, you might be the strongest voice we get in getting a change in leadership here at the club. I might have to put one of your baseball caps on for a couple of months just to try and encourage some sort of switcheroo here at the top, because it ain't working right now with who's in charge, and they're the loudest voice on the other side. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they're saying, but it's almost like it's bizarre. It's got to this. What are we even talking about? It's just sad.
It's like sometimes we see countries jumping into an argument with another country just to get the end result they want. You know what I mean? And I think it's the same with this. I'll back the Green Brigade if this pushes the board out. I don't think it will. But what I will say is I think it's going to put the vast majority of fans against the board. And this is where I'm thinking that, see, no matter the results on the park, no, there's no disguise anymore. They had that cloak or that buffer, to use their term, of if you win, you win. The fans will forget. The fans will forget. We see now, Tapia League with 8 points, or they've got a game in hand. We're probably guaranteed that we're going to have a run in the Scottish Cup as well.
5 out of 7 trebles, Lowell was keen to remind us of.
You can rhyme off all the results. That was a buffer for the board. See now, they've not got that. I think this is the turning point. The COVID season was different because the team were losing on the park, so the fans turned on the board. But the board knew that when results come back again, the fans will forget who we are. And you go, there's a truth in that. But see, this is the first time we've had a successful. This is probably the first time in our history we've had a successful team, a financially stable club, make money, the manager we all wanted, and the fan base are apathetic with rage. But I mean, watching that, I said it at the opening of the show, name a club in the world who's got a championship winning team, Champions League football, £70 million in the bank, the manager they all wanted, announced figures a day that we couldn't even dream of, and the fan base is raging. I don't know how can you square that circle? I don't know how we manage as a club to fuck up that badly. And I think the biggest thing on that was the mood inside the AGM today. Normally the AGMs we'd have questions about Resolution 12, etc. Just these stupid things. The day there was a bit of bite to it. You had the Celtic Trust standing up, asking questions about the support at Easter Road, asking tough questions to the CEO about the Green Brigade, asking tough questions about stadium restructures and all the rest of it. That doesn't happen. The board make a him and not watch social media. They don't watch this shit, and that's fine. We don't want them to watch it because I think that it would turn their hair white. But this new boys, I don't think they can hide behind results anymore. They just can't. They've upset the wrong section of the fan base, and what I've found is that the power that mob's got, I think it's not as big as what they think it is, but they had a big swell of support. I think it's probably not as much as 50-50, but I think they can definitely get their opinion across to a lot of people in the support. But see I think the day it's went way beyond that. I agree. And I think it's on the back of the Green Brigade stuff. I think that's sharpened the knife today. So it has. And I think any Celtic fan that went to that AGM would have probably walked out of there with less answers than what they had before and met angry what they were. And
I feel more patronised, mate. That's the key to me. I think this is where it comes down.
In private, what's happening in private, boys? Can you imagine the language they've had in private?
And suddenly, whether right or wrong, it brings substance to what
does.
the Green Brigade have been saying, whether it's an arrogant silence or whether it's being treated like we idiots. Suddenly you look at an AGM today and you go, well, actually, I can picture that. Now I've got a picture in my mind of what they're saying. It's even if they were talking shite, it's been built up perfectly in advance of this AGM where you could go, actually, there's a bit of meat in the bone there because look how they are talking there. They are better than me, or in their mind, they're better than me. They do know more than me. They think my IQ is that low. They can now call Peter Lawwell a chairman when they announced him as only 11 months ago as a non-executive chairman. These are the sort of things that get me as a fan, that absolutely rile me because I go, wait the fuck now. And if there is going to be some sort of tussle and some sort of way of change, then maybe, for rightly or wrongly, and again I go back to it, I don't need to subscribe to every view of either side, whatever side you take. But I'm not going to have a board sitting being not backing down, doubling down on views for me that don't actually work and benefit the one thing I'm focused on, Mark, and that's the playing side. I love the team. It's the team that I want to do the best. See, at the end of the fucking day, they do not do their best to get the best possible product in the park. And they have failed time and time again whilst continually giving themselves pay rises, continuously, basking in their own glory, continually patronising me as to the reasons why they can't, when I know there's multitude of reasons why it could be better. Not seeing game-changing levels in Europe, but it could be better than what it is. We are not doing our very best. We are not the optimum level that Peter Lawwell spoke about. There's another wee catchphrase from him. We want to strive to get to the optimum level. No, Celtic should always be at the optimum level Celtic can be. It shouldn't have £72 million in the bank and then think about becoming the optimum level Celtic should be. For me, the optimum level of Celtic is the best possible product in the park. They don't deliver time and time again. They pick fights with certain fan sections. They deride people at AGMs. And then after that, they play musical chairs. They bring in family members and they refuse to change. They refuse to listen. And right now that affects the main thing. And that is what I watch on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday morning or whatever it may be, a Wednesday night in the Champions League. And they don't affect that though. They keep you deflected from that stuff. They keep you deflected. They'll focus on the big wins domestically and they'll keep you away from the competitive ones in Europe, the real competitive ones in Europe. They'll deflect from the net profit they make in transfers. They'll deflect from that and look at the volume of players they've brought in. Not enough of them fit to wear a Celtic jersey. Not enough of them improving the current Celtic squad. The prerequisite should be, is the squad better than it was this time last year? See if the answer's no. Right, I want to know why, because we're in debt. Okay, I get it. We're downsizing. I get it, because we need to... See, when it's 72 million cash surplus and the first team is worse than the year before, that is absolutely shocking. And that is something that tells you they are not doing their job properly. And if they can't deliver on that part, then if they can't deliver on that part, pal, then I'm sorry, but my patience with the other stuff will lead me to take side with them first, because they might help influence the thing that I want out of all this, and that's the 11 men in green and white hoops on a Saturday afternoon to be a team that I can go, fuck. By the way, Mark, this is a team again. Like, this is a proper team. And they're not doing that. They're not focused on that. They are focused on the bonuses. They're focused on the profits. They are not focused on the job that they were given, which is to produce the best possible Celtic team on the park first and foremost. That is the job of the board, is to support that to the best level they can. They don't support it to the best level they can. No. And if there is now other avenues we can get in to see a chink in their armour, I can see why folk take that side.
And the thing is, I mean, I'm totally with you on that one. I think if the end game is getting rid of these bastards, then I'm up for it. But the thing is as well that was lost in translation is they mentioned that they're investing some of this money into the infrastructure of the club, rebuilding the parts of Lennoxtown, etc. Now, when we bought Lennoxtown, we raised a share issue to pay for it, right? Celtic have been okayed 240 million shares. They've sold 91 million, right? So we've got 140 million shares that we're allowed to sell, and we're not selling them because the club don't want their strength diluted in any way. They'd rather than keep the £70 million to strengthen the club better this, better that. They're taking money out of that, using that to strengthen these departments, in inverted commas, giving the lassies new showers and all the rest, a lot of shite. And whereas we could fund that easily with a share issue, but it would give the individuals, it would give the Celtic Trust more shares to buy. It would give the individuals who've got 2%, 3%, 4%, give them a chance to buy another couple of million shares. But they don't want any power in that. They don't want any power diluted at all. They want this. Dermot Desmond, who put in £8 million 15, 17 years ago, 18 years ago, is now worth 40. They don't want guys getting anywhere near that level of investment, Bhoycie, because it dilutes their power. So we've got to find out. So if we were Rangers would spend that money. Well, no, they spend that money in players. They would probably do a share issue and pay for this training run. To be honest with you, the Celtic Academy should be at Lennoxtown anyway. I don't know why they need to update Barrowfield. They could be building an extra set of showers and a couple of pitches at Lennoxtown. We've got to that land. Just you know what I think it is? I think they're probably going to get a grant for the government. Is putting people in the area to work using land that's probably derelict. You know, the rest of it, I think Celtic are going to get a grant and get half of this pipe for them. And it looks like to me they've bought a big massive infrastructure for the women team and the youth team. And the fact of the matter is, it's been subsidised by Glasgow City Council, left, right, and centre. That's probably the truth of the matter. You know what I mean? Let's get into 7:30. We better call it wrap.
I get you.
But think about that. We've got the ability to sell another 140 million shares. We choose not to do it, and that tells me the club don't want their power diluted.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the one thing I always say as well is between this time of year, whether it be in European football coming to an exit as normal and the AGM done, it gives them that 6-month run where domestic bliss can then take over again. And all these conversations will be left in the dust.
I don't know.
And they'll all come. I hope not. I fucking hope not, mate. I certainly hope not.
I think this is different for COVID, mate. This isn't a results-based anger. This is an attitude to the fan base. This is a pure hatred to the people who keep the club alive. This is different. If this was a results-based argument, I would say, aye, beat Rangers and then we'll forget that it existed. This is went deeper than that, mate. This is a winning team. Yeah. And the fans have now put the floodlights at Celtic Park and faced them all directly in the director's box, and now they're in the spotlight. And let's see, I think their next move is going to be telling. I do think they've. Personally, I think they need to at least. Well, I think the Green Brigade have to move their stance rather than the club. But the club itself need to make moves, because their next move on the Green Brigade stuff has got to be telling. But see, their next moves on in January, I think this is going to be the acid test for this board. How they deal with this situation. I've got no faith whatsoever in this club building the team that me and you deserve, but I think it's got to the.
They've never had more tools to do it. They've never had more tools to do it.
Let's see what happens, mate. Because I think the Green Brigade stuff. It's the first time in the club's history that the club has literally turned on the fan base, and rightly or wrongly, I can see the club's stance. Honestly, I can, but the visuals is they've turned on the fan base, and in the last 4 or 5 weeks where this stuff with Palestine noticed it, I've never, as a Celtic fan, seen a club so distant for their fan base. And
they're like a government now, mate. That's what it's like.
It's a bad divorce, and you can't just have musical chairs like you say. Put him there and put him there. Maybe Russian dolls. They all just go back at each other, Bhoycie.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Russian dolls. That's superb. On that note, Mark, that's your best line of the night. We will leave it there. As always, thanks to everyone who's watched. There's 183 in the bus right now. Please do give us a wee like, a share, a slag the hair, a subscribe, all that nonsense. But as always, keep your eye on the board. Good night.